Okay, welcome everybody. This is Dawn Rickabaugh. Glad to have you here at Property and Paper Live. You could find me over at notequeen.com, where we talk everything about seller financing and note investing. And if you understand a little bit about the note business, it'll make you just a killer real estate investor. And I've been reminded in the last couple of weeks, conversations, clients, associates, that in fact, even creative real estate investor clubs. I just ended up doing a deal like in between all of the family things that I was having in the last few weeks, kind of put together a very custom solution for someone. It closed just before I was going on a river rafting trip where I wouldn't have any cell service. And I'm like, yay, the wire went through. I had just a few minutes. But he said, you know what? There's these real estate investor clubs. They're creative real estate, but Don, they don't know what you're doing here. They wouldn't understand what you've just put together for me. So it just reminds me that just getting the basic word out there, not only to real estate investors who just want to up their game a little bit or start, maybe you haven't even started. Wow, just learning owner financing can really be such a powerful tool. And I like the good parts of being a landlord, which is getting money. Ostensibly, you're getting money, right? But the bad parts are just taxes and insurance going up. Insurance companies just canceling you out of nowhere. They won't renew policies in some areas, and just the tenant thing. So if you own real estate, you can keep the good parts and keep the best, ditch the rest. That's kind of catchy, isn't it? So keep that income and secured by the same property that's been feeding you and nourishing you all of these years, right? And just switch it around a little bit. And if you do it right, wow, it can just be a powerful game changer. And voila, you've turned your whole portfolio into very desirable passive income that people are always looking, how can I invest in notes? How can I get passive income in a safe way? And if you've got a portfolio of real estate, or even one or two, you already have it at your fingertips. So anyway, thank you for being here. We got some more people coming in. Svetlana, great. Linda, Vicky, Kevin, Deborah, nice to see you. Okay, so welcome Michael and Brenda. Oh, great having you on. Wonderful, haven't talked to you in a while. So now go ahead and type me a message if you have a situation that you want to talk, questions you want to bring up, or scenarios that you want to bring up. Just get it over there in the chat and we'll get to you. Ken is going to start off with situation. What's going on, Ken? Let's talk about it.
Thanks, Don. Yeah, I'm going through a foreclosure where it looks like it's going to go to probably the court steps, basically, and it's a commercial building. And I've never gone through the whole process. I believe there's enough equity where we should. It's a promissory note, and for whatever reason, the borrowers have gone dark. They're not responding to anything, and the note was about roughly $750,000 to start with, or somewhere in that area, and it's about $725,000. Very little from principal has been paid. And the property about four plus years ago, it's a small commercial building, about 5,000 square feet, and it was appraised for about $1.2 million. So I believe today it's probably worth a little bit more, but let's just be really conservative and say it's worth 1.2, which it was 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. We have roughly, with foreclosure fees, lawyer fees, things of that nature, it's probably close to, let's call it around $800,000 that we're going to need to have someone come in and pay us that amount to get us whole again, basically. But I'm thinking that might be an opportunity for us to maybe own the building and make a bid on it ourselves. So I'm just curious, I've never done this before, if there's any nuances that you would recommend, or if there's anything that you would, advice-wise or wisdom would give me before that the sale comes in the next probably 30 days.
Oh, okay. So you're already at the point of the notice of trustee sale, you said? I'm sorry if I missed that.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, so 4 or 5 years ago, I just love hearing the whole deal. 4 or 5 years ago, so you owner financed it. Took a pretty
We
good.
didn't own a yeah, we owned a fund, yeah, we did, yeah. We basically did a promissory note, and it was because they were gonna use the money for whatever, so it wasn't like we were trying to buy the building. We were just given a promissory note for the building, and they had plenty of equity.
Oh,
and
I
it
see. So you just
wasn't a purchase.
You just made a private loan.
That's correct.
I gotcha. Okay, so fantastic. There, anyone else who is has something to say, please prepare to jump in here. But as you know, your opening bid can only be what you are owed. You can't just say, hey, just because you're the lender doesn't mean you're going to own the property, because obviously your opening bid can be no higher. It can be lower. If you really don't want it, it can be lower, so someone else buys you out for sure. But you can't put your opening bid higher than what you're actually owed, plus all your fees and all of that. But yeah, there's nothing to say that you can't go bid on your own property. You can't bid on it yourself. It would be interesting just to be there, and if, I don't know how high you want to go on it, but because just in the last deal that you were talking about just a little while ago, you can do owner financing, take a nice big chunk down, and just get more than someone usually would be willing to pay cash for something. So
well, I'm looking at it where somebody does. I mean, there might not be anybody who bids, then we'd own the building for sure, which is perfectly fine.
right.
And if somebody does bid, I want to kind of have a second option where, because we were owed about 725,000, I mean 800,000 total. So if somebody comes in at 850, I might be willing to go to, let's say, 900 or 950 if it's worth $1.2 million. So I just want to be ready.
Right.
And if we do have to bid, we don't have to bid anything over than what we're owed. If we want to go to 950, we really only have to come up with a couple $100,000. We don't have to come up with the full amount, obviously, because we're already owed a certain
Right.
amount.
Now, as to the particulars of the bidding, you'll want to, check in on that and be really prepared with how that county or that trustee works. But yeah, I guess I would, just as long as you're really confident at that price, and even if things get, how we can have little black swans that change everything in a day. If, just be sure that you would be willing to actually, well, it's not really, but, throw bad money out or good money after bad. You know what I mean? Yeah. So a lot of times it's like, okay, maybe it'll be a super bonus. If you get it for that 800,000, then you have a lot of room to make, your wheeling and dealing.
Yeah.
It just depends on how confident you are that even if we had a 20% drop or lending got even weirder or something else like that, that you'd be all right on that. But
well, what makes it even nice is that it's in my backyard, basically. It's 20 minutes from my house. So I own commercial property right now, and it's another commercial building that's about 5,000 square feet. That's kind of my niche area. So I kind of know the value. And at 1.2, trust me, it's very conservatively at 1.2.
And and you're probably familiar with the condition and everything too, because
I drive by there all the time and stuff. Yeah.
Does anyone? Does anyone else want to? Hi, Dan. Does anyone else want to, say something? Have any words of wisdom? Been, through a bunch of foreclosures in California? Anyone on the call?
My question is just, where is it?
It's in Vacaville, California.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I've never done that. I mean, usually I'm trying not to take a property back, is because, well, probably mainly because it wasn't in my backyard. Like the last deal, I got a non-performing note. I mean, it was sort of performing, partially performing. It was in Bakersfield, and ostensibly it had all this protective equity. But by the time I got down to it, I'm glad I was only in it, supposedly worth 400, and I was glad I was only into it for 200 because at this, well, I guess it was a little more than that. Oh no, the note. Yeah, the note balance was, anyway, my opening bid could have been as high as like 280. 290, and I said I was only in it at 200, 210, and I said I'm going to do 250 because I do not want to drive down to Bakersfield and manage, getting the guy out of the property. I think there was some foundation problem. So, but this couldn't be any better because you're the private lender and it's right in your backyard. So that gives you a lot of options.
One quick question, Don. I believe there's a second on it. I don't know the exact amount. If there is a second, whatever that amount is, if we end up owning the building, are we required to give them any money at all?
You know what I would do, Ken? I would dig into that right now, because I would say, look, you're about ready to get wiped off completely. You might not want to say anything. Right? Because you're in first position. That's the lovely thing about superior lien position, is that you're first. Well, after the government, after taxes and those things, right? So it doesn't matter. Second position liens, I'm surprised. I mean, if you wanted to be bailed out, then I would contact them and say, do you realize, and I'm going to give you, you can get me out of this and you start foreclosure on your end. But if you want the property, I guess I would stay pretty quiet. Hey, I just want to jump in here post-production and just say, I think I said that a little backwards. You're not going to get a foreclosure or a discount usually on the first if you're in second position. But one other thing I thought of after we ended this meeting, and then I emailed to Ken privately, was one thing I thought of is he really, really wants the property, and the note in second position is very likely to get wiped off completely if they don't wake up and do something. So I told Ken, in the email, hey, you can email the second position note and say, hey, you're about to get wiped off, but I'm willing to give you, let's say they have a $200,000 loan on top of Ken's in second position. They said, hey, I'm willing to give you 50 grand and I'll take over your note, and then he can stop his foreclosure on the first and start foreclosure from second position. And then his opening bid would be, instead of 800, it would be something like, $1 million, right? North of $1 million. So then it would be very unlikely that he would have anyone competing with him bidding at the trustee sale. But then the big downside of that, which is why he's not going to do it, is that you have to start that timeline all over again, and that would be untenable and not make sense. But anyway, just one idea I thought of after the fact, and just wanted to stick that in here.
It's not something that I want to do. I mean, I'd rather just get paid off, but there's some potential equity here where if you can get it for, let's say, $900,000 and it's worth 1.2, that's a pretty good haircut. So I'm just looking at that other option if it does become available. And who knows, if we end up owning it, it's not such a bad thing to own it, $720,000, because whatever interest they owed us, we don't have to come up with that because they owed it to us. So I'm assuming that that's not.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll make you write the whole check or not. That's where I would check in weeks, like right now. Be ready,
I talked to one of the people who's basically doing the foreclosure, and he said you'd only have to come up with the difference of whatever's
well,
owed,
that's what
what
makes sense. I just, I haven't done, I haven't bought things at trustee sale. Has anyone else here bought things at trustee sale? Nobody. But yeah, that's interesting. Well, that's exciting for you then. If it just goes, so they didn't go past a maturity date. They just disappeared. How long have they been delinquent? How long delinquent?
About 7+ months now.
And
And I think there's some lawsuits going on. I think she might even be in jail, or possibly. There's some real kind of weird things going on in her life. So because the building has got equity, I'm surprised they didn't want to sell it and try to get something out of it, which is very, very odd. So there's just some weird things going on that I don't know necessarily everything, but it's a learning experience. I'm just trying to figure it out, and I'll have a little bit more wisdom at the very end. But if it is a potential for us to make a bid, I just want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing if we do end up making a bid.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's excess funds. I wonder if that would, that would have to, maybe that would go to the second. I'm not sure.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
If somebody bid 900,000 after paying us, let's say 800, that extra 100,000, I believe, would have to go towards the second. But the second, I believe, is more than 100,000. I believe. I have to find out. That's
Right.
something else I have to.
But I
find
think
out.
I think it's funny that they haven't done anything to cure the
Yeah.
default, because they could come in and theoretically just bring you current and take it
Correct.
over, and then they could sell it. So I'm wondering why they're sleeping on it as well.
They haven't even paid the insurance on it, Don. I had to put a forced fire policy on it for like $13,000 for the whole year, which normally it would be, let's say, 3,000, just to cover our bases and stuff. So for whatever reason, there's just a lot of weird things going on that don't make any sense. But these things happen, and at the very end, when there's a good deal, it's because of so many different things that have to happen to make it that way. And sometimes life is just what it is. People don't care, or they're in jail. They can't do anything about it.
Yeah, wow, that's really something. So Brenda says she bought a lot of foreclosure sales between 2008 and 2012. Did you want to share anything about your experience, Brenda? You're muted.
I did a lot, and the rules can kind of change. I would just make sure there's nothing new that you can kind of just sneak up on you. I bought, people would just file bankruptcy day of to stall the sale. But it sounds like, I don't know, either they're just non-responsive and they're going to do something like that, or like you said, maybe they're in jail, but you seem to kind of know what you're doing. I would just make sure you know every law about where you're buying, so no one can,
Yeah, it's really odd. Go ahead, Diane.
make sure to
I'm not-
call liens and
Oh,
everything.
I'm sorry. What?
I'm not sure, but I believe in California, if the second doesn't do anything, I don't know that overbid needs to go to the second. I think they just get wiped out.
Yeah.
The only liens that would be honored are anything above him, like a HOA lien or
Right.
Yeah,
a
so
tax lien or an IRS lien, but the second, if they don't step up, get nothing.
I wonder about that though, because if there's surplus funds, if it doesn't, it's going to go to someone. So it's either going to go to the seller or to the lien holder, because surplus funds has to go
Lien
somewhere.
holder.
But-
Lien
I've
holder,
also filed in second position for foreclosure and got paid.
right. But if the second doesn't file,
Right.
they're gone. They're
Right.
gone.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what your trustee will do with the funds. I know when I had to, in Texas, they were looking for like who's the estate. They had to do a bunch of research on that to make sure the surplus funds went to the right place. And anyway, but yeah, anyone else have something to say about that? Yeah, Don?
Who is doing the foreclosing?
FCI is recommended. It's called California Trustee Specialists.
Okay, that's not my question though. Is it you? Are you?
I'm not. Yeah. I'm one of the lenders. There's two lenders, me and a good friend of mine. But
But-
not doing the foreclosure. We're having a company do it.
No, I understand that, you have a company, but you're the one that's you're the principal doing the foreclosing, is that correct?
That's correct. Me and my.
Okay, okay, so now, because as I understand it, you know, assuming that there's an over on it, that would go to like pay off the other people that are, but I don't think the second would get paid off. So, because it was not, at least in the beginning, it was not really clear to me that you were the one that was doing the foreclosing, because, you know, you're talking about some company. Okay, is that company representing you? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it makes, I don't know actually. So, but
So-
obviously if there's no overage, the second gets wiped out, you know, but if you're thinking about, I'm willing to bring some more cash to the table, I would be really surprised if the secured lien holder doesn't get paid first, whatever's left over. I would be really surprised, but, let me know. Yeah, I just don't, I haven't done a ton of foreclosures, just like very much in California especially, so. But anyway, well, you just keep playing it. You know what? You lent the money and now you're going to have potentially get this property. So property turns into paper, paper turns into property, and you just can keep pinging it back and forth from paper to property, property to paper, round and round the merry-go-round, and just keep profiting off of it, you know, or sell it for cash, or heck, you know, that's great. You know, just having your foot in the door and gives you an option on many, many deals potentially down the road. So thanks for bringing it up. It's always interesting to see what's happening out there. I know in
Thank you guys.
yeah, in Napa County, you know, the insurance, so we close on this deal and I'm looking at the insurance and I'm like, okay, I'm the mortgagee, everything's great. And then I'm like, it expires in 2 weeks, and I just hadn't quite put that together. And I said, oh, well, I'm sure they're going to be renewing, but Safeco is pulling out. They're not renewing any policies there, I guess, because previous fires in that area. So they're going to have to scramble now, you know, the borrowers, and I'm having to go, dang it. I should have made sure you guys had, you know, renewed this for a year before I closed. That was one of the things that I didn't quite plug in. So I'm not too worried about it because we're actually below land value on the structure, but still. So anyway, but weird stuff, you know. Sure, you know, they're canceling policies, and then to get it from some other company, a lot of times you're going to have to pay 2-3 times more. And forced place is really, really outrageous and expensive too. So anyway, very good. Who else? Does anyone else want to have a question, bring anything up? Dan, you and I had, you had emailed me some things. Do you want to go over the calculator with those things right now, or?
Sure. Hi,
Yeah.
everybody. First
Yeah.
time here.
Yeah, welcome, Dan. Yeah, do you want to give just a little background? I know some of you, and some of you I don't, so I'd love to get to
okay.
know more people
Yeah.
that show up.
Yeah. I don't know the mix of the whole group here or who's regular here. This is my very first time. I actually saw Dawn on a podcast 6 years ago. I can't remember the gentleman's name. It was the Army investor guy.
Oh, that's Connor.
Connor.
Yeah.
And Dawn was there. She looks exactly the same from 6 years ago. And she was talking about, you know, notes and note investing, and that's on my mind. And that's why I'm actually here. I've really not gotten involved in notes. I've always bought properties, remodeled properties, sold properties. I bought properties at tax deed sales, not so much in foreclosures like Ken over there. But I do wholesaling also in Florida with my partner. But what I started doing, I've got some houses that I was renting, and I'm like, I don't want to be landlord anymore. So I'm sure this is a very common story that it's like, how can I turn that into revenue? So I ended up selling them with seller financing, which is a beautiful thing so far. And that's on them. They can get all the benefits and fix the house and so forth. So that seems to be the trajectory that I'm on right now, is how can I buy more properties and then sell them with seller financing, and then possibly, so really I'm creating my own notes is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And I like that because I feel like I can get very good returns on those because I bought the properties at such a good price.
Right.
When you buy something for 50, which doesn't exist in California, I don't know if that's where Ken's at or not. I'm looking at him.
Yeah, he is.
But I'm literally $50,000 and then sell it for like 110, and then get maybe $10,000 down from my buyer. And here I am holding a note for $100,000. It's like, wow, it's exciting. And so Mid-America offers cheaper housing than Florida. So I'm looking at actually getting into this Mid-America buying, where you can buy houses for 30, 40 or less, and then reselling for 2.5 times as much. Or maybe as time goes on, I'll get involved in just straight note buying.
Yeah, actually, this is so, now Svetlana, who's on here, though I don't see her picture, I want to say this is the same Svetlana. Oh, there's 2 or 3 Svetlanas in my life, but you should listen. Oh, there she is. Yes, glass of wine. There you go. Here's my water. Cheers. Happy hour. But yeah, we had this long conversation about this. So you might want to connect with Svetlana or watch that podcast. Like, I don't know if it was just last month in June, a month ago, but man, we talked a lot about it. And if you've bought a property a while ago, especially, that differential between what you buy it for and what you sell it for, can be spectacular. Just there are regulatory things that we beat we beat her over the head with all these things of watch out for this. She's got her attorneys. Is it Georgia? I forgot, Svetlana. Georgia? Or where are you? Georgia? Yeah. So, anyway, so there's some regulatory things with Dodd-Frank that you have to be in compliance with. Mm-hmm. So it's just things when you're going to actively do many, and if it's like 3 or 5 many, or 10 or 20 many, or 50 or 100 many, you're going to have to use different strategies, I think, to yeah. But it is quite amazing what's possible. So good for you. Good for you. Now, what did you figure your IRR? Is this on a potential acquisition? What were you looking at, do you think?
It was like 21%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not hard. It's not hard to get those double-digit type returns, especially when you consider what your basis is on a property a lot of times, right?
Yes. When I can sell for twice as much than what I paid for it. Now, people don't know who I am. I buy mobile homes. It's more likely that you're going to buy a $30,000 mobile home that you can sell for $75,000, offer seller financing with $5,000 down. Yeah, are they going to pay me? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But my returns hit around 21%.
Right. Yeah, and then one thing that came up with Svetlana is that and as long as you don't plan to sell the note or very much of it, that all works. But as soon as you're thinking, well, I want someone to buy this note from me, well, you're going to put someone's going to say, well, what's the cash value of the property, and base their investment to value off of the as is now cash value, not the pretend seller financing value. So really, at the most, you can, just sell off a few payments. At least you could almost recapitalize maybe, or get a big chunk of it back, which then your IRR goes screaming crazy higher, right?
And along those lines, I've learned, I think you were talking about that with Connor 6 years ago about the mortgage or loan servicers out there, and how important, or the part that they play, that if you use a loan servicer, and you qualify your buyer, and you can prove that you've got payments coming in, you're not going to take the big hit from a note buyer that you would if you didn't have any documentation. So I want to try to move in that direction, that I want to have my buyers qualified, use a service provider, have it all documented. So then maybe I could sell the note for 90% and not 75% of a discount.
Yeah, so just for context, all of those documentation pieces are very important. And the biggest one is, what's the value of the property? What was the down payment? And, credit. If you're going to get in those 90 cents ranges, then you're talking institutional buyers, and they're very credit sensitive. So a lot of times the people that will, buy for double, put 5,000 down, their credit's not the greatest, but not always. So anyway, just for people to have a realistic expectation that just because you created a note for 90,000, it doesn't, if the property's only, as is cash value right now is only 50, then that's the starting point. And now I want to be only at 65, 75, 80% to that, depending, right? So I don't care that you put the 90. In fact, that's worse, because now it looks like this person is so upside down, it could be counterproductive. That's not intuitive, but so it's not that it's wrong to do. It's just having the correct expectations. If you're thinking, oh, my exit's going to be to sell this note. So there's always balancing of all the different pieces, but good for you, Dan. Fantastic. It's fun when people are just really on the lam for this and catching the vision and the bug, and you're like, ah.
Yeah.
Good. Is there anything else, Dan, that you want to bring up or share?
Well, this is really just the first for me to come in here and listen to all the brainiacs in here about their note buying and hear terms that I normally would not hear. Just another learning opportunity.
Yeah.
I've done a lot in my real estate, career, and a lot of wholesaling. I have a partner. We do wholesaling in Florida, and that's really where we get our clumps of cash from.
Right.
And there's deals that my partner, he just wants to make a few $1,000, and I'm like, if you only want to make a few $1,000, then I'll pay you that, but I'm going to buy the property. And that's how I started acquiring properties, because I think he needs more money than I do. But
yeah, I think you were saying that he has quite an extravagant appetite.
Yeah. Hope he's not on the call.
Yeah.
He knows how I feel. He goes, I'm going to live my life because I don't know how much longer I'm going to live. Well, I'm at the point I just want to set up a stream of income, little drips of income, this property, that property. So I'm buying 2 more. So I'll be at like 9 properties, I'm 67 over the hill, but I'm about to get Social Security. So when you add all that up, everything's paid off. I'm not making a lot of money, but it's enough that I feel like I've reached a point that I have freedom in my life, but I don't want to stop the game. I want to keep playing now that I've reached a level that no more physical work. It's just learning numbers and finding notes or finding deals.
Right. It's working smarter, not harder. And just with a few tweaks, investors can just really do amazing things. Gosh, when I started, just adding to building a portfolio, which is 2008, 2009 in there. And after all the training that I'd done, years and years of going to the conferences and paying thousands of dollars, I was still scared to death to buy my first note when I was actually pulling the trigger. And but anyway, that first 18 months that I just started doing it, and just having that arbitrage where I bought the note, maybe in the early days I had to pay. My friend would lend me the money, but he wanted 15%. So I had to buy notes, at higher than that to make a spread. And
wow.
The first note that I had, it was a partial, and my spread was, I bought it at a 25% yield. So I had $75 a month passive income, but you know what? that started changing my life. So then I put another one, and that was $100, and then another one, well, that was only 50. But you know, you just keep doing that, and pretty soon, at the end of a year and a half, I looked back and like, my California house mortgage is covered on a passive basis. That gave me my base salary so I could quit sweating bullets while I'm raising all these babies and, you know, trying to be an entrepreneur. When I had that base salary for myself, it just changed everything. And so I don't snivel at, you know, 40, 80, to, you know, 100, 200. All of that to me is like sacred cow. It's a little more passive income this month than I had last month. And so, so that's very powerful. So I'm wishing you every success. And if you want to come back and share the glories of your victories, that's more than welcome. All right. Thank you so much.
If I'm failing and losing everything, I won't be back. If I'm winning and stuff and I can brag, I'll be back. Okay?
You got it. It's a deal. It's a deal. Okay. Well, thanks, Dan. Now, Kathy, I saw you come on. Always great to have you on. Is there anything else? Oh, you unmuted. Kathy, you gonna say hello?
Hi, how are you? Yes, how you doing?
Good, good. You got anything going on you want to add to throw in the mix here?
I just wanted to let you know that the update on the investor that I created the note for on one of my properties that was so far behind.
Was that?
Yeah, who would you think? Yeah, go ahead. Well, I sold an investor my property and created it so he could rent it out. He wanted to do short term. Well, he apparently had some difficulty in getting enough short term rental in it. And that was, I think, just his mismanagement. It wasn't necessarily the property, but and so then he got behind, and then I heard all the sob stories. Well, you didn't call me, or I didn't get this, demand letter, and I go, it seems to me that went out. So again, all the sob stories, and so I finally said, we're going to foreclose if I don't have it by X. Well, he finally made it up, and he's back on track. So yahoo!
Yeah, you know what? Don't you think that's interesting? Like a perfectly mature adult comes and says, I didn't pay because you didn't call me? What?
Yeah. Right. So I sent a very nice long email and says, here's the areas of the note you're not in compliance with. And I'm going to exercise paragraph 2 that says, here's my next step.
Well, good for you on that. I think you had brought this one up either on a prior call or on a phone call when we chatted a couple months ago or something, but
yeah, because I was kind of questioning whether is there anything that I should do before going to foreclosure? And I put all my timeline together because I wanted to be able to say in South Carolina, you need to go back to an attorney to be able to foreclose.
Right.
And so I wanted to be sure that I had every text, every email that I could present that shows he's saying we didn't communicate, but here's the servicer communicating, here's me communicating, and I just wanted to make sure that.
Who did you have servicing it?
I had a local mortgage broker that services it.
Okay, great, fantastic. Yeah, well, it's good to know. I mean, so then we're setting up and we're getting good at our calculators and our IRR and all that fancy stuff, right? But guess what? That's predicated on the notes actually paying, and sometimes it doesn't. There's hiccups, and so life happens for people. So a big part of this space, but if you've set it up properly, and especially meaning you've taken a big down payment, that protective equity is the best thing you can do, to mitigate the risk of loss, financial loss. But what Brenda, Brenda's saying, amazing what people can come up with once they get a foreclosure notice. Like, amen. So I've practiced and with buying little portfolios of notes in different parts of the country, and ones that were like, okay, they just put. It was the guy. He was buying this particular portfolio was 12 notes I bought from front-end partials because he wanted to keep the back end, but he wanted his seed capital and his hard money partner back out of it. But he was buying HUD homes for 30, 40, not hardly doing anything to them. selling them at 80, 90, 100 with only 5% down, and a high percentage of those went into default or have just been like, pardon my language, but pain in the arse kind of things. Like, you have to work them hard, because these people that only put 5% down, they think they're renting. In their head, they really think they're renting, and they don't.
Right.
And finally, as just a matter of a story that maybe we'll just end up on here if there's nothing more, but I finally just fired this guy. I said, because I'd been working with him, and he's like, oh, well, I'm out of the country and I can't make the payments, but I'll pay every 3 months, I'll pay a few thousand. And like, we let him get away with that for a while. I don't know why we did. You know, some of these things where you're like, I shouldn't have done that. But what we did is we trained him that he didn't have to be professional about it. So I didn't help with that. And then he would always say, every time I sent him a notice of what you owe, he always accused me of you. And this was notes before, you know, the Dodd-Frank, and where like, hey, you shouldn't be doing your own notes anyway. This is one of those few that was still left that we hadn't boarded with servicing yet. And he was just like, I paid you a lot of money. Give me an accounting. You know, and I said, why don't you just provide receipts? You say you deposited in my account. Anyway, and I asked him for an insurance. I said, look, you haven't provided me updated insurance. He says, it's none of your business. I said, it is part of my business. But I'm just saying that people don't often understand it. And I just said, you know what, Martin, I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm firing you. You still owe me the money, but you know, I boarded him, which I should have done. I should have done anyway, you know, prior. But it was just so nice to hand it off to. I went with Madison because I got some other thing. They're a national servicer, and I have a few notes with them, and so it's kind of just easy. They've got a Spanish speaker, so you can't pretend that he didn't understand what I said, and but it's nice. But I'll tell you what, I've got, and then that guy and one or two in Texas that one's in Maryland actually. Anyway, I have to, every 3 to 4 months or something, depending on the state, sometimes it's shorter, Texas is shorter, I have to send them a demand like I'm going to foreclose on them. I just have to do it or they won't catch up. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just part of the thing. But that's not to scare anyone who's like, oh my God, you want me to, you know, you said being the lender was nice on my property. It is if you do it right. You'll set yourself up so that even if the note goes bad, you'll come out ahead. Like, circling back to the beginning, Ken is potentially going to come out ahead, potentially a couple 100,000, 300,000, maybe more on a deal. So, but he doesn't care because he did his underwriting correctly when he made the loan. Okay, so that's where he made his money. So I don't know, guys. You know, with who knows what the market's going to do? But just bake in some losses, or I mean, some softening in the market. You know, where prices could go down. I mean, Harry Dent. I don't know if you guys listen to Harry Dent, but he's calling for 50% drop in real estate prices. Other people say that's complete nonsense, but it's just play the what if game and maybe not have everything. You know, you can shoot for the stars with some things, but you might be a little more conservative with other things. But if you do it correctly, you'll be fine no matter what. Because even if a property that I did owner financing on and I got a good down payment, if I get it back, I can still sell it with owner financing again or keep it as a rental, and I can still get my price because I'm carrying. You know what I mean? There's just a lot more flexibility that way. So anyone else have some words of wisdom they want to leave before we wrap up? I think we'll just go ahead and call it a night. Go ahead, Donald.
I don't have words of wisdom. I just see Vicky Tan. Is she connected at all with Bill Tan? Vicky
Tan, I've seen Vicky's name. I don't know that I've seen your face, Vicky.
Well, it's right here, and she's.
Bill
She's,
Tan. Yeah, that's a name. That's a blast from the past. Hey, Brenda, is Bill still doing stuff in SoCal? Bill Tan? Is he still teaching his
Yeah.
calculator classes and clubbing, doing the clubs and
Yes, he
stuff?
does it out of, I think it's out of, Riverside.
Oh, is Riverside, huh?
He
Yes,
worked in
actually,
San
a
Diego.
lot of people are coming to Riverside now to do stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah. Remember how I told you that, oh shoot, who did I just go see? John Schwab was there, as well as Pete Fortunato,
Uh-huh.
like people you'd only usually see in LA or San Diego.
Wow, cool. That's great. And then there was the other guy. I really liked him too. He was Mike. I don't know.
Canto? Was
Huh?
it Canto?
Yes.
Canto?
Yes, Mike Canto.
Yeah, I always
Cantu.
Cantu. Mike Cantu.
Yes.
Yeah, I learned so much from him. That's where I really dialed in that substitution of collateral. That changed my life. You know, where you can go in, get owner financing, sell that for cash, just walk that mortgage somewhere else, and just keep leveraging that, you know, really low interest rate financing that he would get. You know, that's where he really helped me there. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate you participating and sharing so richly. It's always a pleasure. Thank you all, and we will catch you next time. Oh, one last thing. I wanted to show you a new thing that I made, just in case you're a buyer. So I created this form. So this is if you're a real estate buyer, whether, you know, just for your own property or as an investor, or you're an agent and you have someone, you got a buyer with a big down payment but can't qualify. I've created this submission form so that you can say, here's the situation, and I can help you put your seller finance deal together with some, you know, information, with some amortization schedules, and with a couple of offers that are say, hey, if you need more than the $100,000 that the buyer's got for a down payment, you know, here's a couple ways that I could help you get that. Because what I'm really interested in building, one of the things, well, I also want to buy property with owner financing, but I want to buy a lot of front end partials. So I want notes in very secure positions. I want to create solutions where the seller takes a very, very small discount, almost nothing. And then I have investments that I can bring my investor clients in at very safe and secure investments secured by real estate. And so even if the properties would decrease in value, it's basically at some of these levels that I'm really intent on building. I'm in at land value or less a lot on these things. So anyway, just wanted to bring that up since it's a new little thing that I've been trying to put together, and it'll evolve hopefully over time. So I will stop sharing. Just say goodbye to you and thank you. Take care. Appreciate you all. Go out there and create financial solutions, just one mom and pop to another. Take care.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye, everybody.
Bye.